Hey folks, welcome to another episode of The Security Table, where we sometimes debate the philosophy behind the Matrix. Was it the red pill? Was it the blue pill? But sometimes we talk about application security and other related things too. And so I feel like we're still on this thread. Oh, who are we? Who are we? Who is anybody really? So I'm Chris Romeo, joined by my friends Matt Coles and Izar Tarandash. And today we're going to continue pulling on that thread of what we affectionately refer to as reasonable application security. I think there's a connection with what we want to talk about today, but I think it's also much bigger. And so the premise in front of us was really an image that I saw somebody tweet, and it was in regards to capture the flag. And so this individual, who I should have been more prepared and ready to quote and give attribution to.
What else is new? I mean, come on.
Yeah, so what else? We're known at the security table for being very unprepared. He basically just had this premise of capture the flag is overrated, it's overhyped, it doesn't generate CVEs, doesn't help you generate CVEs. So I thought it was a pretty interesting construct. And it's gonna allow me to stand on a soapbox a little bit later and talk about what I think about red teaming and pen testing and the focus we give in the industry. But let's unpack the CTF question first. So you guys tell me, I'm not a CTFer, okay? I've never played a CTF, so I feel like I'm only qualified to share my opinions of it, not necessarily describe what it is. So let's work up, what is it? What is a CTF?
Matt, you go with the definitions.
Do you have a paper?
Great.
Matt, do you have a piece of paper with CTF written on it and a definition?
Well, I do have a flag with the CTF on it.
Consider it captured.
So yeah, great. I'm Mr. Dictionary over here. Great. So CTF, right? Capture the flag. Competition for people to get together and break stuff. Well, not so much break stuff as find stuff, I guess, is the important part, right? So we're talking about a structured competition with a defined goal in mind, or a set of goals, maybe some milestones along the way, and people get together and ultimately it's a competition, right? So there's one objective, a piece of data or control of a system or whatever. And obviously we're talking security here. There's other capture the flags. You know, if you're a gamer, you might be going for that literally a flag on the screen, or you're doing paintball or something. Very similar concepts. Hopefully folks have that pretty clear in their mind. You're looking for something. You're trying to get it before the other team does. Capture it, hold it, destroy it, do whatever you need to do with it, and winner, chicken dinner.
I love a good chicken dinner. So Izar, what else? What other context would you provide?
Yeah, so that's some of the fun. Of course, there's a whole bunch of CTFs that happen either like individually. You go and you have a specific set of problems that progress usually in difficulty. And for each one of them, you get to that string that is the flag. You apply it to the interface, you get the next problem. And we have seen some of those also applied in companies as an educational tool, or in hackathons, internal hackathons. They're very popular for that kind of thing. And stepping away from the definition and going into the what is this good for, which is, I think, why we're here. To me, okay, first of all, the competition part. I think that a lot of people that are in this profession are interested in the things that we deal with are competitive by nature. So these are good ways of pitting what I know against what you know and coming out with something that's quantifiable out of it. If I have more flags than you, if I have more points than you, then I win and you lose, and now enjoy your dinner. But what I like to question is the educational point of view, right? Because what would be, in my head, what's the closest thing that you could parallel with CTF? To me, it would be about bounty, right? But the difference between both of them is that the CTF, by definition, can be exploited, and there is something at the end of the rainbow. So it's like the CTF is a sure thing. The bug bounty is you go in and you apply the things that perhaps you learned even in a CTF, and may happen, may not happen. You don't know. You're going blind. You can question your own experience. Do I know what I'm doing here? And that
So,
to
so
me
would you? Sorry, would you? So, what you're calling out is the CTF is a structure. Is a structured activity that has definitive goals and milestones that are achievable. Right. That's what you're ultimately saying here. Is a
Yes.
CTF. A CTF is a structure for with content that is known that tests for skills, as opposed to bug bounty, which is content that is unknown, testing for the like what flags do we have, not how do you get to the flags we know of.
Actually, I am more simplistic than that. I'm saying that you go into the CTF, you got a guaranteed dopamine hit if you do A, B, C, D, and you go into the bug bounty, and you don't know what's going to come out of it. Perhaps you'll find something, and perhaps you won't. Right? So, I do see the parallel between both of them. I don't think that that working on one is a good ramp up to the other.
Would you say though that a bug bounty is first and foremost a test of a system, whereas a CTF is a test of skills?
Oh, that's a beautiful way of putting it. So you mean that the target of the exercise is different?
The outcome is different, right? Yes, you need skills to do a bug bounty, but you don't know what the target is. You don't know what that flag is when you do a bug bounty. So you have to have skill. You're testing skills, but you're really looking for the goal of running a bug bounty is not to know whether an attacker is good, but to know whether they find the flags, right? Find something. And again, those flags are unknown at the time. Whereas the CTF, all the flags and all the milestones on all the path through the system are known to the organizers. At the very least, you're testing the skills and potentially the collaboration and inner working, interpersonal and technical operation of an individual or a team to get to those objectives and milestones and ultimately to the flags.
Okay, so
the goal of the exercise is different.
So analogy time. It sounds to me like you're saying that the CTF is like a shooting range, where you have like very controlled situations, very controlled limits, and you are basically checking out if you know how to operate a weapon, how to shoot in a target. And the bug bounty is closer to being out there and doing those things that people who do things with weapons do. You have all kinds of unknowns, and the boundaries are not known, the terrain is not known, who's shooting back at you is not known, so all that. And then, of course, you extrapolate to bad people doing bad things, which is actually the world of attackers attacking our applications. So three levels here of indirection. Yeah.
Let's take it a step further though and talk about outcomes of each one, because when you think about when you're putting bug bounty against CTF, the outcome that's I think most people are aiming towards is enhancing their knowledge in the CTF. They want to learn how to break stuff better so that they can apply it to breaking stuff and wherever else they break stuff. The bug bounty, the outcome's dollars in your pocket. So similar path, but bug bounty. So I'm thinking about, Matt, bug bounty from the perspective of the person who's doing it, not the organization who's
right. Actually, there's two aspects there to consider.
But I mean, there's no real CTF, like there's no real organizational value. I guess there could be organizational value in the CTF of enhancing the knowledge of the people that work in your company. But let's focus on the individual first.
Well, I would actually I think you cover the bug bounty and the CTF from the goal of the participants pretty well, right? A test of skills. It's a test of skill. It is a test of skills, and there's money associated probably on both ends, right? There's either fame and fortune from participating and winning a CTF, and you gain skills, or you show off your skills, right? You either get bragging rights, you get a payout, or you get a promotion, you get whatever. Same thing for the bug bounty, right? Although that's more of a financial impact, or maybe it's swag, or maybe it's a leaderboard, or whatever the case may be. So for the participant, you get tangible benefits from either of those activities, and very similar tangible benefits. the bug bounty, from a organizer standpoint, the bug bounty is I get somebody else to do testing for me that I then compensate them for. So I learn better about my system, and I learn then what I can improve that. A CTF, though, I think is really from an organizer standpoint. If it's a corporate organization organizing it with their employees, they're testing their employees' abilities. Maybe it's a team building exercise, so they get some interpersonal connection there. They get to collaborate. They get to test out processes. We can talk later about red team versus blue team, because there's another area to go into. Or if it's a organization that does it, like the U.S. There's a U.S. CTF. I'll have to pull it because it was at DEF CON last year, run by a good friend of mine, or at least emceed by a good friend of mine, who this was bring teams together. They do CTF. They learn about new attack techniques, right? So it's a chance to show off new industry trends, or learn about new attack behavior, or show off in a different way, right? So there are tangible benefits across the board. Not all of them are financial.
So the original kind of Twitter tweet that got me to this, I just said Twitter post, I'm so embarrassed, that got us to this conversation was an image with the header at the
Facebook
top.
Posted.
Yeah, that's right. I put it on the Facebook.
You didn't tick it or talk it?
I didn't. I don't understand that. I don't even want to go there, Matt. You almost open a can of worms suggesting that I would be on TikTok. No, I'm not ready for that can of worms. That's
disclaimer. I'm not on TikTok either. So
yeah, that's a whole other discussion debate as far as where that data goes. But the premise that this tweeter did was stop doing CTF. Security was not meant for competitions. Years of CTFs, yet no real world CVEs found. You want to hack something? Don't use CF time. Use this, and then it's an analog modem with the. So I don't know if if this is just purely a trolling attempt that I just fell for, but it does bring this issue up. Like, are we too focused on CTF in the world of security? And we're going outside AppSec now. We're talking about security in general. Do we focus too much on CTF?
Okay.
Go ahead, Azar. You first.
Last time that I participated in CTF was 2 years ago. And I went for one task, like the one that the points were like absurdly bigger than everything else. And it ended up it was one binary that had something like 8 different layers of garbling and obscurity on top of it, and ended up going one binary in one language, encapsulating another one, and so on and so forth until the flag. And you know what? It has absolutely nothing to do with security. It was more about reverse engineering and figuring out some very basic crypto. But I didn't care, because it kept happening, and the dopamine kept hitting, and I kept solving a problem. And I could not give less of a care about, am I having a security experience? Am I learning more? Because it felt good. And I think my point is that we already have to fight so much when we are teaching, when we are pushing, when we are building these programs. We have to fight so much for people to get interested in it, and for people to give you their time and their attention. And I think that dopamine hit is a positive. If I can get somebody at least minimally interested in some aspect of security using that mechanism.
So how practical, but how practical, like you just described something that's never going to happen in a modern web application architecture.
Oh, no. That was just to illustrate the fact that I got so engrossed into it. Yeah. Right.
But did they create something that has no real world applicability though? Or is there some real world case for this architecture that I think
you're thinking about it wrong. I think we're thinking about it wrong. And maybe that's we're putting a lot, we talked about it. We just talked about actually CTF versus bug bounty, right? The goal of the exercise is different. We're not in a CTF. We're not looking for new vulnerabilities. We're not looking at necessarily inventing new attack techniques, although that probably happens in a CTF, probably pretty frequently. But that's not maybe that's not the outcome that we should be asking ourselves about, right? If the statement is CTFs don't produce any vulnerabilities, therefore they are bad, meaning they're a waste of time because they don't produce vulnerabilities, I would suggest that the goal, the expected outcome, is the wrong outcome. It's not a waste of time if it's a team building exercise. It's not a waste of time if it's an opportunity to get people interested in the field of cybersecurity.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not a waste of time if it gets people thinking about, new attack techniques or new memory defenses or new coding constructs or other things, that are non-tangible benefits that come out of or are not directly related to the CTF benefits. And therefore it's not a waste of time. If you're looking to find defects, well, that's a bug bounty.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you want to do CVEs, that's a bug bounty. We don't know what the target is. When you construct a CTF, you plant a flag. That's a target. That's a piece of data. And you say, oh, that data is protected by these things. And, in order to get through that, somebody's going to have to know how to do a memory injection and a heap overflow and route to, return to libc and all this other stuff. Well, they may find a way around those attacks and do something completely different, but that's not the outcome that you're looking for. The outcome is basics or a particular path or a particular goal in mind.
I'm somebody who could care less about CVEs, and it's not just because I don't have any. Let the record show. I don't measure my worth in the security industry based on the number of MITRE CVE entries that exist in the database. But I think
we're not pen testers.
But that's when I was about ready to go. I'm going to go there in that direction, though, right? Like, I don't consider myself a breaker using the classic OWASP terminology: builder, breaker, defender. I don't consider myself a breaker, or really a defender. I consider myself a builder, and so as a builder, I think about how can we spend our time better so that we can build better stuff that doesn't have the problems. Like, if we can build something that doesn't have any of the issues, heck, they'll have nothing to break. There'll be nothing to find if we. And so this is, I'm about ready to unleash my soapbox moment here and I've written about this before. I've talked about it publicly, and it's an unpopular opinion. Get ready to put up the unpopular opinion flag. I don't care. In our industry, we focus too much on breaking. We focus too much on red teaming, too much on CTFs. These guys are all writing their resignation letters to the security table right now, and so it's okay. But we spend too much time, and all you got to do is go walk up. So find a kid a student, a younger person who's in university getting ready to go into cybersecurity, and ask them, what's the number one thing you want to do? And what do they all say? I want to write more secure Java code. I want to eliminate No, they all say they want to break things. And so as an industry... And move fast. That's fine. Move fast. That's me. That's my soapbox moment. Thank you. That was an excellent graphic. Excellent graphic. CVEs, who cares? I feel like I'm the get off my lawn guy when it comes to, that's my new persona I'm taking on here. But we spend too much. What is this? What's it good for? No, we spend too much time focused on it. Like, if we could take half of the effort we spend breaking and invest it in building, wouldn't we be able to eliminate a lot of the stuff that we're breaking? Like, imagine if a kid came out of a CS program focused on cyber and said, I want to write more secure code. I'd feel like it was a great moment. I'm on a rant. I'm like,
they would get laughed out of that classroom so fast.
But that's what's wrong. That's what's wrong with I feel like I'm Dennis Miller. I'm like, I don't want to go on a rant or anything, but I'm already there. Like, okay, you guys respond to this rant. I can't talk.
So let me throw the argument. Let me throw the argument that I think we always hear is, well, in order to be a good defender, you have to understand what the attackers. You have to think like a hacker, right? You have to understand.
No. Bad Matt.
Exactly. Bad Matt. Matt is now being muted by the host of this podcast right now because I have the mute button and I'm muting him because Adam Shostak just called and said, does someone say think like an attacker? Take them out. Take them off the podcast. Izar's leaving. For people listening via audio, Izar has left the set.
No, I am going to put my Shostak hat for a second.
Okay, please.
There you go.
Wait, did you just say think like an attacker?
He said think like a hacker too. I heard that too.
I'll just have to put money into the swear jar for that.
No, you're going to be in the penalty box. What's going to happen?
Okay, continue, Matt.
Did you fall? You fell off your soapbox apparently, though.
Well, I'm still screaming it. The fact that you said think like an attack. So where you begin? I'll rehash just to prove I'm an active listener. That I did hear what you said before I started screaming.
Did you really?
Yes.
Yeah, let's see that.
What you basically said is the classic argument is that to be a good builder / defender, you have to understand how to think like a beep. I couldn't say it. I can't bring myself to say it.
And please note for viewers at home, I don't feel that way. I'm just replying with, but the counter argument is blah.
People say,
yes, it's being the pundit.
Good people on both sides say
we need the pundit view, definitely. So, but yeah, let's unpack that a little bit though. Like, is that true? Do we actually, like, where do we land on that? Do you believe? Like, I mean, I think you have to have,
of course not.
But you do have to have a solid foundation to be a good builder on how things work.
Yep.
You do have to understand, like, if you're a developer, say you're an AppSec engineer, and you tell me during the interview, I've never actually exploited a cross-site scripting or SQL injection, but I've studied them a lot. Like like you do have to have that foundational knowledge. What I'm saying is, like, at the industry level, we're so hyper-focused on breaking everything that it's a detriment to focusing on more secure by design.
Look
at that. Secure design principles and CWEs. Yeah, man.
So we have a source of commonly known security knowledge that we can leverage. Right? I don't need to know the technique that an attacker uses to exploit a cross-site scripting vulnerability. If I understand how a cross-site scripting vulnerability gets introduced in code or is exposed in a network service, I can defend against it, or I can avoid it in building. Right? There's a lot of skills involved with how to do testing. Now, I will say, I used to be a QA tester early on in my career. I used to do security QA testing. So having that structured mind of being able to think about a system, identify attack points, and put together a test plan is, I think, important to know how that's going to happen. But being a pen tester, to be the attacker, I cannot put myself in those shoes, right? That's not my MO, right? And I think that goes for the two of you as well.
Look, we have to be honest about something. When was the last time that you saw a movie that shows that amazing point in time when somebody sits in front of a black screen and starts clacking, and says, I just wrote a library that defends against XSS? It doesn't happen.
I'm going to film it. I'm going to write that script and I'm going to make that movie. And no one's going to watch it. Nobody.
ChatGPT will create a script for you. And you can.
What happens is Trinity scanning the power plant. What happens is the guy that played Thor doing I don't know what with some. Anyway, my point is, pen testing is sexy. Defending is not. Kids coming up the ladder, many of them, they are going for the fame, for building their nicknames and stuff like that. Nobody built their most people don't build their name by building stuff for defending stuff. They do it by breaking stuff. And we have some great examples of people who started breaking and came to the other side of the table and started defending it and done it wonderfully and moved the state of the art forward, right? And even if we look at Black Hat, it's sort of newish that Black Hat has a defender track, right? I don't know how many years, but it's not recent.
Yeah, true.
It started as a full-on Black Hat thing. And I think that, of course, that there's a reason for that. Pen testing is breaking things. It's sexy. Defending, it's not. We are the geeks of the geeks.
Yeah, that's true. And let the record show, I did just have ChatGPT write a short movie script where a developer writes a secure library to save the day. So we're now accepting investors if you want to be a part of this project. I'm thinking maybe Keanu Smith.
I don't know. I see a new career for me here. Like, look at this profile.
you need to get Gal Gadot or somebody. You need to get a little diversity in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's this is my next project. I'm going to work on this. It's going to be a short movie, and no one's going to ever watch it, but that's okay. So, but I mean,
you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. There'll be probably 800 views by the time.
But no, back to our thing. Okay, so we agree that pen testing is sexier than defending. Now, what do we do with that?
Well, more important, actually, a reason why pen testing is more sexy than defending. What happens when you pen test? There's bashing on the keys. There's stuff happening on screen, right? There's something to show and there's something to hear. And there's the sound coming from the people who are doing it. On the flip side, you have the defenders who are running around like crazy people with their head cut off. Oh my God, the sky is falling. They breached our network. What are we going to do? Or step 1 of the policy says do X. Step 2 says, and there's not much to see, right? Technology demos are really hard when there's nothing. Some sort of bug is flying around. Technology demos are hard when there's nothing to show, right? A couple lines on screen running.
Yeah.
Wait. You sound like someone who has never sat in front of the logs coming from a firewall and going, yes, I see your anger. Yes.
That was like a Gollum thing going on there. Like, my precious.
If you were operating a honeypot, would you sit there and go, oh, he did that. Oh, he's going to go there. He's going to go there.
You mean again?
But would you watch that?
Yeah.
Would you watch that?
Listen, I came up in the world of computers and IT when that was actually happening live on the computer. We're like, oh, what did he just do? Oh, wow. He or she really just took down our entire system here. That was pretty cool. That was the defender. But I mean, these are, to your point, like, what do we do? And I mean, I think at the end of the day, unfortunately, there's not a lot we can do, because it is the motivation, it's the extrinsic motivation that drives people to want to break stuff and to get the fame and the glory that comes along with doing it. I think as an industry, we should be investing more on the defender, the builder side. And that's what, you guys are the same as me. We've dedicated our lives and our careers over the last 10 or 15 years to doing this. Do I think we're going to move the needle a lot? No. But I think if we can do something to influence the people inside of big companies that are looking at the bottom line and the return on investment for what they're doing in security, I think over time people are migrating more towards secure building over the last 10 years than pen testing.
Okay, off the top of my head, Chris, what if your next project, instead of the movie, was we reversed the model of the CTF. And now rather than going and getting the flag, you have to protect the flag. We get engines to do automatic attacks, and you get to see the attack happening.
Yeah, they do. There's tech that does that. People have done that already. Yeah, there's a blue team. There's a company that's doing blue team CTF, where I think it's red versus blue. Yeah.
Well, and remember NACCDC?
Yeah, but that's live. Like, that you have to get a bunch of smart people attacking you.
But it's a red team, blue team situation, and they focus on the blue team is they don't give points for the red team breaking the blue team's spirit. They give points for the blue team having a system that is live and running at the end.
And it is very much, just to be very clear with the terms, right? Those environments are breaker versus defender. Not so much breaker versus builder, or breaker or breaker versus builder and defender. When I think red versus blue, it's the defender that's representing, that's protecting the system more at the network level and the service level versus writing better and secure stuff from the start.
Now, can we just take a quick sidetrack here? We talked earlier. We started with CTF versus bug bounty. We didn't talk about red team exercises.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a very similar thing, right? Red teaming. Well, I'll use my definition. Whether it's you guys can tell me if I have it right here. A red team is a test of an operational system where you're testing both its defenses as well as the operations of the people who are managing it, the defender's function.
Agree.
Right? It is not pen testing.
Mm-mm.
It is not pen testing per se. And then people often confuse them, I think, that they call pen testing and red teaming or bug bounty and red teaming to be the same thing, but they're not. Their goals are their techniques are the same or very similar, but the goals are different.
Yeah. I think in the industry, there's a lot of people have used those as synonyms now. Because, if you're doing a pen test with a physical component, technically you're red teaming, right? Because you're going beyond the technology. You're testing the processes and the people at the security station, at the gate, at the door.
Maybe if you're doing physical penetration testing and you're going to you're trying to break in without being detected. I guess technically that is red teaming, although your goal is to find the vulnerability, not necessarily to make sure that you don't get caught.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's some red teaming engagements, pen testing engagements. The goal is not to get caught, is to try to get in, violate the physical security constraints, violate some logical security controls, walk away with the computer out of the data center if you can do it and sell the story as you go.
Make best friends with the security guard while you're at it.
Yeah, but that's an attack of the policies. Like you said, your definition was it was beyond the technical controls. It was attacking the policy and the people behind the operation of the system. It is a lot of time what's happening there. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, where do we go with this? Like, should we start a movement? Should we start a new manifesto?
How would you? So let's start with how would you incentivize this? So I guess if you look at bug bounty and you look at CTF, right, you can incentivize behavior. The behavior is incentivized because it's sexy. There's stuff to see. There's stuff to hear. There's financial payout. There's a leaderboard, whatever. How would you incentivize not the defender, but the builder side? How do you incentivize that? Let's say from a competition standpoint. How would you even approach that?
I mean, off the cuff, I think outside the constraints of a single competition, that's really what security champions exist for inside of companies. Is your security champions program is to try to provide a reward and recognition structure for people doing the right thing from a builder perspective. So I don't know, do we have the security champion Olympics where...
No, but it isn't. The reward is in the doing itself. I mean, okay. So security CTF, we can look at it and say it's a hobbyist thing. It's you're interested in it thing. A pen test, it's a professional thing. It's you paying somebody to go and poke at your stuff. Mm-hmm. So the incentives there are pretty different. Now, from the builder point of view, the incentive is the thing itself. If the pen test doesn't find anything, if the bug bounty doesn't find anything, I won. And I win by doing the right things. But now we're going back to the discussion that we always have to how do we incentivize developers to do a bit more of what we want them to do and a bit less of what they are already doing. Mm-hmm. So I think that we are extrapolating now to a whole system of incentives that feeds off each other.
We also have to think that this is a long game.
It is a long game,
right?
We've been fighting it for a long time.
No, yes, but I mean, from a system development standpoint and a developer standpoint, they have to become in order to get the reward, they have to delay gratification. I'm going to build this thing, and then at some point later, I'll know if I have won. And by the way, do you win at release? Do you win at that first pen test and they don't find anything? Do you win 10 years from now when your system escapes unscathed with no CVEs?
But we're trying to get bigger. We're trying to get bigger than
you
that.
Don't
though.
win.
If you want to combat, look at how
you just said.
Look at how look at how pen testing and breaking is so top of mind in our industry. It's the thing everybody wants to do. Like, that's so much bigger than we're talking about tactical incentivizing developers on the ground. And maybe that's the foundational layer that we're missing. But I want to get to the point where breaking and building are at the same level from an industry perspective.
But it won't. It won't. It won't, because when you pen test something, speaking of delayed gratification, if you don't have any findings and you got a good enough set of pen testers, and that's a whole different discussion how you choose your pen tester, then from a certain point of view, you say, at this point in time, apparently I don't have any glaring issues, right? On the other hand, if you're defending and they didn't find anything, you haven't quite proven anything to yourself. You have just proven that a group of people have not found anything at this time.
Yeah.
So you are trying to prove a completely different set of assumptions.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is you're trying to prove a negative, right? You're trying to prove you're free of defects.
And that's a whole
which is not
security assurance, right? That's government.
Right.
That's where I grew up in security, was going through the assurance process and trying to prove. And it got into the levels that I didn't even understand of formal methods and things. Like, I never even understood how that worked. I can pretend like I know what it actually is, but
a lot of math.
Yeah, proving. But at the end of the day, it doesn't work for an operational production system, because it takes you 6 months to prove the version you released 6 months ago is secure. By that time, we've generated 200 releases a day, and so it doesn't add up.
But Chris, I'll go there. I'll go there. You mentioned formal methods. Absent the formal methods, the only thing that you can actually say is my version is secure to the best of my knowledge right now. That doesn't guarantee anything in 15 minutes in 15 years.
True.
So to quote the best movie ever made, poster here in the corner, the only way to win the game is to not play it.
Yeah.
Well, so we can't not play it here.
No,
but let me flip this a little bit. Maybe let's think a little bit out of the box. Throw the security aspect out the window for a moment. What makes developers want to be developers? Because developers are builders, not security people. They're builders.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
What makes them want to be engineers? What makes them want to be
Solving
developers
problems.
and programmers? Solving problems. And you incentivize it by giving them problems to solve. Right?
Solving the problems that they want to solve, not all problems.
He's bringing us full circle. I see where he's going. I can see 2 steps ahead. I see where he's going. He's bringing us back around to the CTF and saying a CTF is solving problems. We just need it to be something that's tailored towards developers, so that they can solve their kinds of problems versus.
But then, Chris, it goes back to the experience that you have with the training stuff and all that, right? When we started gamifying all that stuff and giving people snippets of code for them to go and do the right thing because we just show them, that's not it. We know how that it works better than not having it, but that it didn't really get to exciting people's imagination.
Yeah, it didn't change the industry. The industry
there's a missing
change.
There's a missing link there, right? When you do that, it's just a skills test, like within the scope of that training exercise for the developer. It's not the real world application, right? So how do you take that snippet, or how do you take that exercise, not the snippet itself, but the exercise, and bring it back to the defense of the thing that the developer just built?
Yeah.
Because that's where you'll get the full value from it.
GitHub needs to add locks. And every time somebody does something secure, somebody can nominate them for a lock when you're doing your code review. And then the security and GitHub, that is patent pending trademark. Not really, but I mean, imagine that type of a external system of validation. Like GitHub stars is a great validation for, like, when you look at an open source project, if it has 2 GitHub stars, you're like, maybe I'll find a different prep package to use. This doesn't look great. Imagine on your GitHub profile, though, if you could have that where other people had recognized a positive security pattern and gamified it for you.
Collusion.
Maybe there's an AI opportunity there.
It's always the threat modeling guy that comes back and starts pointing out the flaws immediately.
What do we do here? We have 3 of those here.
I know, that's the challenge. That's the challenge. I thought I had a good idea, but all right, we're out of time on the security table for today. I don't know. I don't feel like we really solved. I think we made some progress in the right direction. I don't know
we're trying to solve anything?
Oh, I'm always trying to solve for something. That's why we're engineers. Oh, I should have told you that up front, but I think
we didn't capture the flag.
It was this good and spirited discussion. I mean, I think that's the highest Izar and my blood pressure has been during an episode as a result of Matt's describing "think like a beep." I can't even say it. I can't even bring myself to say it. But we'll continue our spirited debate because Matt tried it at home and Izar is representing now a Star Wars bonnet-wearing individual. So let the record show. He started with Darth Vader.
Is that Star Wars or Spaceballs?
Oh, that's true. It'd be bigger. No, it'd be bigger. Space. He had that giant helmet.
Ludicrous speed. So everybody have a ludicrous Memorial Day. And enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, enjoy your weekend. Have a great time. Thanks for listening to us.
On the next one.
Yeah, thanks for listening to us on the Security Table. Thanks.